We have, let's see, Tony and Marina. Yes, we definitely have a quorum. So it is now 6:01 p.m. I'll call the meeting to order. Let's see, there was a potential to share a flag for the pledge. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Now next order of business is the approval of the minutes from the April 28th, 22 board meeting. I think there was one abstention from the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the April 28th, 2022 board meeting?
Motion.
Dorina, do I have a second? Marcia? Everyone in favor of the motion? Is there any discussion, first of all? All in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 And I know there was one abstention. I think Vanessa?
The abstention's me.
Okay. All right. With one abstention, the motion, is there anyone opposed? The motion passes unanimously with the one abstention. All right. So the second order of business is public input session number 1. Do we have anyone for public input session number 1?
Good evening, everyone. I do have one item to read to you for public comment. This is from Jay Stokes. Was received on May 9th via email. Dear GPL staff and board members, on behalf of myself and my wife, Angela, we thank you for the excellent continued dedication to service and resources for Guilderland. We live in Fairwood Apartments, and going to the library with our 2-year-old is one of our favorite activities. Congrats on finishing the construction and winning the Top 5 Capital Region Library Award. I'm also writing to express some comments and feedback regarding children's events and COVID. Although we understand the risk to public health and the concerns for our community, we urge you to consider reopening the Meadow Room and continuing to offer in-person story time. We would support limiting the number of occupants in the Meadow at events. Could you host children's events outside to mitigate COVID exposure? As fully vaccinated adults, we would be happy to share our vaccine cards for admission. I'm sure the board has been discussing this, the liability and taxpayers' opinions over the past year plus. Thank you for considering this feedback. Please let me know if you have any questions. Jay, Angela, and Sakona Stokes. And just as a side note, I have been, after I received that, I was providing some more input on the decision to close the Meadow and what went into that, and that it was based on our pandemic operation plan. And that's all I have for now.
Okay, great. So the next item of business is personnel action. And I have here that the person.
Sorry, can I
Can I interject? I just wanted to respond just briefly and say that we appreciate the comment because, you know, as a patient that comes in, it's really nice to hear that we're doing a good job and our efforts are, I guess, seen by the community. And I was at the library with my kids and I wanted to take them to the meadow and it was closed. There was no notice that it was closed. And I did notice some people that were coming there specifically with their kids and they had to explain to their kids that it's closed. So I completely understand where the comment is coming from. And hopefully we can, you know, do something about it, I guess when we talk about the COVID protocol later on in the meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, we will be talking about that. Believe it's under new business. So moving on to personnel action. I think it could be one motion. I will just read it. It's to approve the appointments of Andrew Petrikowski for a full-time custodial worker, Carly Ibanez, a full-time custodial worker in the both in the maintenance department. Also to accept the resignation of Brianna Van Norstum, full-time custodial worker in the maintenance department. Jeff Gangel, full-time custodial worker in the maintenance department. And Harrison Fonte, part-time library page in the access service department. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel actions as so listed? Phil, do I have a second?
Second.
Norina. Okay. Is there any discussion? All.
Do we know the reasons for the resignations?
I do not. If any, I don't know.
I can adjust. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Well, to my knowledge, Brianna was sick and then had personal problems. And Jeff didn't last much more than 2 or 3 weeks. And I think it came down to weekends for him. And the first one, Fonte, I don't know specifically why that resignation occurred.
Okay, yeah, just curious. I know Tim has tapped me to just help out with some HR stuff, so I'm just curious if there's like exit interviews or things like that occur when people are leaving, so we can pinpoint if there's any like main pain points for the staff.
I can interject. The reasons for the maintenance people quitting was discussed in the personnel committee. And is being addressed. It's part of the I guess negotiations that are coming up with the union. So that's all I can disclose at this time.
Okay, thanks, Marina.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve the personnel actions, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? All right, then.
I'm sorry, I saw a hand by Vanessa. Was that for opposition or?
No, that was a very slow reaction to the eye.
Okay.
I won't do that again. Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. Thanks.
Could you repeat that so I can join in? I've been trying to get in for the last 10 minutes. So this is Barbara.
We just voted on the to approve the personnel actions. Everyone else is indicated they're in favor. Are you in favor
Yes.
of
Definitely.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. So then seeing no opposition or they pass unanimously at 6:10. All right, so the next order of business is the treasurer's report. We were emailed that. Is someone going to speak to that this evening?
Is Natalie on? Natalie probably will be doing that.
Natalie, are you speaking to the treasurer's report?
I was not, I did not have that on my agenda to speak about. I honestly was in conversations with Norina the past 2 days, emailing some stuff. So I was under the impression that Norina was actually going to speak to this.
Well, yeah, I can definitely speak to what we discussed. I can't speak to the report itself. But me and Natalie have been going back and forth about possibly advertising the position, and Natalie's done a lot of research with other libraries in the area, as well as Tim Burke at UHLS, to figure out what exactly the duties of the treasurer should be. I see Tim's hand is up, but did you want to say something?
Only when you're done, I can interject, Norina.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say, except I haven't had really time to look over the other descriptions, but I also know that Mike just circulated a resume for a person who's interested in the position. I did have a chance to quickly review that, and it looked really good. So, I mean, I don't know if we should vote on that now or talk about it more, but I'll let Tim talk next.
No, it was my understanding that absent a treasurer, another board member or the finance committee would interject on that behalf. But and given that I've just finished my 4th week here, I don't know that I can speak intelligently to a lot of the details. But if there's any specific question on the income statement or the check register, I'd be happy to talk about that. And if not, I'd like to also just bring your attention to the invoice that was attached to it as well regarding the tax levy. But I'll start with any questions on the usual reports. Yes.
Andy, question?
Yeah, I think that the big thing that I see is we didn't get any tax levy revenue for this month. Okay, so there were budgeted for 121,650. So what's that about, and does that relate to the other piece regarding the tax levy?
I don't know what that relates to as far as receiving a tax levy. As I understand it, there's a tax levy of $4,055,000 that's on that last page, and 98% of that was funded upfront earlier in the fiscal year, and the remaining 2% was due. Now, if you look at the report I supplied you, due to the tax refunds and the reassessments, the library actually will not receive that remaining 2% and actually has to pay the school district $16,649. The net difference there that's reflected there. So the invoice is there and the calculation is on the back of that invoice for yourself.
Yes.
But
So in other words, what we owed them as a result for the adjustments was the 121,650 plus the 16,649 and change.
yeah, I'm sorry, Andy, I can't speak to the 121. I'm not familiar with that figure or where that stems from, but I can look into it at a later date.
Okay, well, are there any other questions on the financial reports?
I have a question.
Barbara?
Yeah. I have a fellow that I met recently also is a retired accountant and was willing to, volunteer his services. But again, he wanted to know the total job description. So I'll connect Natalie up with him as well. And apparently there's somebody else at his surface that, might be willing to do it, as a volunteer. So we'll, as I said, I'll have him talk to Natalie and we'll take it from there.
Forgive me if I'm speaking out of line, but I thought that Tim said in the last meeting that this was a board hire, not a library. So where would Natalie fall in there, Barbara, if you could help me understand that?
Natalie will gather the material and hand it on to probably our personnel committee.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it was the finance committee that was going to get it. Am I wrong?
Okay.
That was
No,
what
you're
it's in the
correct.
minutes
Yeah.
that we
Okay.
referred it to the finance committee.
Yeah, so I have been currently collecting job descriptions of treasurers from other public libraries, school district libraries, and I've been sending them on to Norina. And my understanding was that the finance committee was supposed to meet, review all of those job descriptions and kind of come up with your own, and then pass that off to us, and we can post it on our website and our Facebook and the electronic sign. That was my understanding.
Okay, Marcia? You're muted, Marcia.
Mike, I saw the resume that you just sent. This person looks like he has pretty good credentials. Do you know him? Do you know anything about him?
I don't know. Do we want to discuss that now at this point in the meeting? I'm happy to talk through. I received a email from him earlier today, and I contacted him back. I finally got in touch with him by phone around 4:30 this afternoon. And I asked him to send a resume, which I forwarded on to the rest of you. So he is a CPA. You can look at his resume. I mean, based on the resume, he looks highly qualified for the position. He is retired and is looking to do for volunteer opportunities. Apparently, he's been active for quite a few years with the Gilman Fire Department. And he has worked in the past with nonprofits and such. So I told him that I would forward it, if he sent his resume, I'd forward it to the rest of the board and get back to him with however we choose to proceed with our process of finding someone. So that's where that stands. At least on paper he looks very qualified. I told him that the exact job description is kind of a matter that's currently under discussion. I did talk to him about the kind of core responsibility of reviewing the library's financials every month and presenting to the board at our meetings report on what he sees and reviewing that, but said that beyond that we're kind of still, it was a little in flux. He seemed open to having a pretty involved role. We can decide how we want to move forward, and apparently Barb has also another potential candidate, which I have not seen that yet, but we can, I'm open to discussing how we want to move forward with whatever due diligence we want to do in selecting a candidate or whatever.
Okay, thank you. So should we forward possible candidates to you, Mike, as head of the finance committee?
Last time, my understanding, we were saying that I would receive resumes or information, and there was in one of the weekly releases that went out from the library, my email was listed there as a contact, so that's I think how he found me to get that.
Thank you.
And
Thanks, Mike.
I will, anything I receive, I'll make sure the board gets that information. But as far as, I don't think we had any decision as far as who is how we were going to choose someone. If we didn't even know if we'd get more than one applicant when we were in this last month. But now it looks like we have at least one, and at least it sounds like two from what Barb said. So how we want to go from here, I don't think we figured that out.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Can I ask a question? Is it still necessary to post a position since we have 2 applicants? Barbara, are you shaking your head? No? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I think you're muted.
I would say no, as long as, I don't know if my gentleman's the same one that wrote to Mike, but if we do have a couple of candidates who have volunteered already, I don't think we need to waste time, expanding that search. Mike apparently saw the qualifications. I haven't seen the resume of this individual, but, Mike says that he certainly fits the bill from paper anyway, so I don't think we have to, really look any further.
Okay. So the next step would be for the finance committee to meet and give them an actual description of the duties and possibly interview them if they are 2 separate individuals, and then present the one that we would recommend to the board.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I think I mean, my 2 cents on it is that we should at least publicize the position. I mean, who knows how many resumes we might get. I mean, we might get more than two. And, you know, I don't think, you know, we got a resume, so we're done. I mean, it doesn't really, make sense to me to just stop the process right there. But we do need a description of the duties, and we have to somehow publicize that as well.
The only thing I would say, Kathy, is I know Luann has done a great job in putting it out. I've got the email related to the position, and I believe I actually drove past the sign in the morning, and I think it had it posted possibly up there. I would be in favor of moving on it sooner than later. We really need somebody who can have eyes on this and, you know, taking care of this for us. So, I mean, I don't know. I would rather see it done sooner than later. That's all I just want to say.
Yeah, I think I would be in agreement with not waiting too long. I mean, if it's already been posted
long
on
has
the
it been
sign and
posted?
other places, then I guess it's been posted.
Yeah.
Is
Luann, Luann, do you know how long you've had it posted? Because I know I saw it in the email and then on the sign there.
Yeah, I think it's been since the last board meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a
So
while.
right. So if you,
You know-
yeah, I'll keep publicizing it until you tell me otherwise.
Well, you know, I looked at this gentleman's resume. This gentleman's a CPA. He's had a long and illustrious career. So we at least, at the very least, have a highly qualified individual that we can go with without having to go through a lot more changes.
Right. Agreed.
I want to just say too, I think Barbara and myself had contact with the same person who had expressed interest recently. And I actually spoke with that gentleman today who told me that he had a time constraint issue and he would probably not be able to do it. So with that being said, I don't think we're going to get any more. And looking at the resume and what Andy just said, I would just see if we can make a motion right now to appoint George Wilhelm as the treasurer for the Gilman Public Library Board.
I second the motion.
Did anyone actually meet him? I mean,
Yeah.
is this
I spoke to him on the phone today, but that's as far as, I mean, I don't know that anyone else is, yeah.
No, I think that Mike should meet with him if it's possible, or at least have another conversation, explain the duties, and you know, I'm in favor of getting someone as quickly as possible. But
So the motion is on the floor. So the only thing I would say is that we the last meeting was a month ago. We've had it publicized everywhere. Many of us have had conversations, I'm sure, with people or have talked to people who we know. And with all of that being done, we have only one resume that's been submitted. I have known Mike a long time. I trust him, and I if he's telling me that he had a conversation with the gentleman and the gentleman appears qualified, and I'm looking at the resume and seeing that he appears qualified, in a short period of time, you're going to have a pretty much new board, half of a new board here, and I would like to see somebody here set to go so that everything can move along smoothly as July comes around. So that's the only way I do it. Again, I have the motion on the floor, so if we can take a vote, I would appreciate it.
Can we remain in the discussion space for just 1 second? I have a
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Am I correct in understanding the resume just came in today?
Yes, the resume, I don't know, an hour and a half ago. You know, the email inquiry came in earlier today, and I first managed to get in touch with him by phone about 2 hours ago, and then I got the resume a little while later and immediately forwarded it to the rest of the board. So I mean, again, from everything I've seen from the resume and my conversation, he seems highly qualified and very interested in the job. But again, I don't know him personally. I've only had one phone conversation. I can't vouch for him beyond, the
Sure.
one brief call. I'm, very optimistic. He seems like an ideal candidate. you know, again,
And then one other question is that he's not currently in receipt of the our actual desired job duties just yet.
no. And again, I had a conversation with him. You know, I described to him the basically the role that Tony had been playing, and said that there was ongoing discussions about all the duties. There's different, you know, different roles at different libraries in the area, and that we were kind of discussing that. There was room for,
Right. So the committee is still discussing
there-
maybe some possible changes to that job description. Just from my perspective, I can appreciate that the posting has been out and like, you know, in an analogy of like sort of a job search, you could be closing sort of your advertising window. I wouldn't be prepared to approve a highly qualified candidate tonight. It has nothing to do with their qualifications. I haven't had a chance to even look at the resume just yet.
If I could just speak to that for a second, apologies. 2015 to 2019 Chief Financial Officer for Hometown Health, Schenectady, New York. Brighter Choice Foundation, 2012 to 2015 Chief Financial Officer. Whitney M. Young Junior Health Center of Albany, Director of Accounting and Fiscal Operations from 2010 to 2012. Capital Cardiology Associates, Chief Financial Officer, 2004 to 2010. Capital District Physicians Health Plan, Inc., Albany, 1999 to 2004, Vice President of Accounting. Dormitory Authority of the State of New York, Albany, New York, 1997 to 1999, Assistant Director. Samaritan Samaritan Hospital, Northeast Health, Troy, New York, 1990 to 1997, Controller. Albany Medical Center Hospital, 1984 to 1990, Assistant Vice President of Finance. And then there's a period of 1982 to 1984 and 1998 to 1999 as hospital consultant and senior accountant for KPMG LLP in Albany, New York. So if that helps anybody, I just wanted to share that.
And he's been a firefighter in Guilderland from 2003 to now.
Yes.
I mean, it does sound impressive, but with all due respect, like I can't. I mean, I and that's just my perspective. So we will do the vote, and everybody is able to do their own. But I think it's unreasonable to ask me to make an informed choice, having the resume read to me and us being in receipt of the resume just hours before the meeting, and the candidate not even having a finalized job description.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So Peter, who seconded the motion?
Andy did.
Andy, okay. All right, there's a motion on the floor. So
Norina has her hand up.
Yeah, I did. I was just gonna say, the next meeting being a month away, I do think that we should make a decision. If people feel more comfortable having a contingency that the finance committee meet with this person first, and, you know, obviously barring anything being wrong with the person, I think I'm in favor of the motion, contingent on him obviously accepting the position with the description of the duties that we will be coming up with, hopefully shortly.
The only thing I would say to that is everybody except for Barbara, who might not have been on here, I'll say it nicely, saw the cluster as we couldn't even figure out what 151,000 was. And poor Tim, who's only been here for 4 weeks trying to figure it out. We weren't sure who was going to discuss it, who was going to be able to answer these things. I think these are important things, and we should have somebody working on it as soon as possible.
well, it is possible to have a special meeting after the finance committee has been able to the person.
Kathy, you're cutting off
from your mic.
I'm sorry, Barbara?
Oh, I just want to second what Norina said. If we have the motion that he meets with the finance committee, and you know, and if he feels that he can do the duties of the position as, you know, we refine them, I do thoroughly think that we should make the appointment today under those conditions, but maybe just, you know, expand the motion a little bit to include what Norina just said. I think that's a very good idea, and it gives us a little more oversight, but looking at the guy's resume, I mean, we are so lucky, from my point of view, to have somebody of that caliber willing to step up and serve the community that, I wouldn't want to lose the motion or the moment, so that, with Narina's refinements, I certainly would support it.
So let's change the motion to, we'll temporarily appoint George Wilhelm to the position of treasurer for the Gilman Library Board of Trustees, pending the final approval of the Finance Committee. Is that acceptable?
Sounds good to me.
So,
Andy just has to second that.
what was the motion?
Could you repeat it, Peter, just for a moment?
I'm
To
just not sure what,
temporarily appoint George Wilhelm to the position of treasurer of the Gilman Library Board of Trustees, pending the final approval of the Finance Committee.
Well, the problem with that, I think, is that the approval is for the board, not the finance committee. So I think if you change the motion a little bit, I could certainly go with that.
So what would you, what do you
Well,
want?
I think the board would have to approve it contingent upon meeting with the finance committee, and the finance committee have no objection to it. It's just a
Perfect. Fair enough,
technicality.
fair enough, fair enough.
That's
Yep.
perfect. Perfect.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm fine.
okay, just for my, so the motion is to appoint,
George Wilhelm,
George Wilhelm,
yeah,
temporarily,
or you want
contingent
Yeah.
upon, I think, a job description and approval by the finance committee. Is that?
Meeting. Marcia, you said it well. Do it again.
I forgot what I said. No.
Yeah, me too.
I think the board approves the appointment, approves the offer, because he hasn't accepted it. The board has approved that the finance committee, headed by Mike, will make an offer to George Wilhelm to become the treasurer for the board, the library board of Gilman, contingent upon Michael's meeting with this individual, describing the job to him, and there being no objection from the finance committee.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
We'll second that motion.
Okay. So motion by that motion by Marcia, seconded by Barbara. Okay. I'll take a roll call on Marcia's revised.
So do I have to so if we're making it Marcia's motion,
You have
Okay.
to withdraw your.
Peter, it could be
I would
yours.
have to withdraw
No,
mine.
Peter, it could be yours as amended. That's fine.
you sure? Okay, okay, all right,
That's
fair enough.
fine.
So you will,
I'll
so
take,
the
I-
motion is by Peter as amended by the suggestion of Marcia
Whatever.
and seconded by
Andy should have been the.
Andy. Okay. All right. Got it. Okay. So it's a contingent contingent approval contingent on offer, job description, finance committee approval of
No, finance committee not objecting.
Not objecting.
not objecting.
Yeah, because that,
Correct.
it's the
That was
board.
a
has to
mistake
do-
of mine. 'Cause
Right.
They're not objecting. Okay.
We could clean it up.
All right. All right. This is a little complicated. I was just trying to.
Mike, I assume you're okay with this, right?
I'm fine with that. And then, assuming we pass this motion, then I would just, I guess, well, I would ask that Jenna do a doodle poll so we can get the finance committee together to finalize the job description as soon as possible.
Okay. I'll take a roll call on this one. Okay, Marcia,
Yes.
Vanessa,
No.
Mike,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Barbara, Elise,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
and Norina.
Yes.
Okay, I think I just have some questions about this. I think I will just abstain from this vote. All right, it passes. So
6:36.
6:36, correct. All right. All right, the next order of business is directors and department heads reports. Natalie.
Before I do the department head reports, I just wanted to make a suggestion about our.
You muted.
You're muted.
Muted.
About that. You think I would know by now. But what I was saying, you couldn't hear me, was before I make the directors and department head reports, I just wanted to make a comment about this conversation that just took place. And I mean no disrespect when I make this comment, but this is the 6th library board that I have worked with. And this is the first library board that does not have a regularly scheduled finance committee meeting right before the board meeting. So when you get together to do your job description, I would strongly recommend that as a job duty, that the treasurer needs to have a finance committee meeting before the board meeting. Just my 2 cents. I'm going to start with our department heads. This is for our maintenance department from Lou Warner. As we passed the personnel actions earlier, we are now fully staffed for maintenance. So that's very exciting for us. It's been a very tough past 2 months. So we gladly welcome Andrew and Carl C. to our staff. On April 7th, we had an on-site meeting with DeJezer Plumbing and ME Engineering concerning the upcoming cooling tower replacement. You may remember from last month, we had a little bit of issue with a gas smell in the library. So we, had GFD come and investigate, and then CR Fireplace was called in to add a section of vent pipe to the existing pipe. And that was completed on May 9th. The idea was to get the exhaust blowing away from the building. So we weren't, having that gas smell on very windy days. Thermal environment sales was called in by Campito Plumbing and Heating to further explore the ongoing problems we've been having with a couple of new rooftop units over in the children's area. They found 2 outdoor temperature sensors not reporting correctly. But as far as I know, it has been fixed, and to date, there have been no more ongoing issues. And we finally made the switch from county waste and recycling to Twin Bridges. From adult service, I'm sorry, does someone have a question? Oh, sorry. For adult services, we began this month on a hopeful note with a 2-part in-person program to certify participants in voter safety. Special thanks to Sean Silvernail from our IT department head for spearheading and running this program. Also, a very special note this month was the program held on Monday, April 11th, a roundtable discussion on the events leading to Russia's invasion on the current conflict in Ukraine. Our newest department member, librarian Jill Tominski, planned the program in cooperation with Dr. Kristen Bidoshi. I apologize if I butchered that name. So thank you very much to Jill for doing that. And last but not least, Library Assistant Michelle Conti did an excellent job overseeing her first drug take-back day in cooperation with the Guilderland Police Department. In youth services, our department head, Beth Rienti, had reported that this month we were excited to have our first in-person program since March of 2020. We held in-person story times with an average of about 20 attendees and also had a number of programs over April vacation week. From our circulation department head, Phil Berardi, he has reported that 160 community members have signed up for a library card in April. Circulation and collection use continue an upward trend in April. April transactions were 75% normal based on pre-COVID averages. We continue to make minor alterations to items and loans as more patrons interact with the collection under fine-free and auto renewal. We are looking into alternative modes of checkout to better support various P types used by Guilderland Library. I will also add that I've been working with Phil over the past week to start up again our passport acceptance services. Right before COVID, Guilderland Library had filled out all the paperwork and had done all the training to start accepting passports, and then COVID hit. So I'm trying to work with him and get staff trained again, and hopefully we can start providing that service. From our department head, Lisa, for collection services, she reports collection services staff are working hard to process the spring rush of new materials. We are now in a good place to close materials budget as the fiscal year comes to a close. They are working on adding over 1,000 items this month. From our department head of IT, Sean Silvernail, as another cybersecurity measure, we have started rolling out dual factor authentication for our users. We recently ordered a web camera microphone with a built-in speaker, similar to the setup we have been using with the library board meetings in the Tawasentha room. This unit is portable, so we can host hybrid and classroom-style virtual meetings almost anywhere. We heard a little bit from Luann earlier. The Times Union released their annual Best of 22 reader poll results, and we were in the top 5. Luann has also been working with me on long-range planning committee meetings and continuing alongside efforts to strengthen consistent GPL messaging and branding. That's all I have.
I'll make a motion to accept the director's report.
We
don't
do
need to
not
do
do
that.
that anymore.
All right, disregard, apologies.
That's okay. We used to, but I was told that it's not necessary as well as it's not necessary to accept treasurer's report.
Yeah.
Can I ask a
We
quick
just thank you
question?
for your report. That's all, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
And,
Just a quick question, Natalie, for the passport services, is that just initial passports, or will that also include other passport services like renewal?
Yep, it's renewal, and actually, I don't believe you need, because I actually did passport services when I was at Brunswick, so give me a second. I think when you're renewing, we can just give the form for you to renew. So if you're within a certain time frame, you just have to, it's one form and you renew it. It doesn't have to actually be processed. But if you're past the certain date, then you need a whole new passport, and we can do that for you. And
I think
I
it's
believe
10 years. I think it's 10
yes,
years because I just got the forms today.
it is 10 years. Yep.
I may or may not be asking for a friend, but anyway, regardless, I think that that's a fantastic service that you all
Yes.
be able to offer. the public.
I did it at Brunswick. It's a wonderful service. It's not only is it a source of revenue for the library, it's $35 a passport, and we have the technology at Guilderland to do the photos as well. So you can charge 15 to, I think we would say within whatever the market is, whatever Walgreens or CVS is purchasing. But I mean, just to give you an example, I mean, I was at Brunswick, and it's like 11,000 people in the community. In one quarter, we made over $3,000. So you bring that to Guilderland, and as soon as we get people certified, you can actually get a one-day pass to bring it on the road. And I would love to be able to do some outreach to the school when they start doing their school trips, senior centers, anything like that. So I mean, it's a wonderful outreach, and honestly it's fun to do. You get a lot of one-on-one interactive with the patrons, and it brings in people who have never been to the library before. So we're very excited.
Well, thank you for resurrecting that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I'll be calling you, Natalie.
Good.
All right. Now we're on to committee reports. I have the first one, design, and there is a committee meeting scheduled on June 1st at noon. And I am told that this will be the final meeting of the design committee. So I think we are essentially done with our work after all these meetings. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that. So finance. Anything else from you, Michael?
No, the finance committee hasn't met. As I mentioned before, I'm gonna ask that we'll do a doodle poll and try and get a meeting as soon as possible so we can nail down the job description, and then we can get in touch with the Mr. Wilhelm to present him with that and make sure that's good to go forward.
All right. Barbara, you have buildings and grounds and long range planning.
Right, the long-range planning, we had a meeting, followed up by Andy, so I'm gonna let him follow up. What we decided is that we really needed the input from the staff. We now have the mission statement, and he's gonna report on, meeting with, I think it was Natalie and Luann, as to, how they're coming along.
Right, so I met with Natalie and Luann and Tim to discuss how they can use the mission statement and how they can use planning as an everyday management tool for the library. So we talked about crafting a director's message to the staff in the community, talking about figuring out the outgoing and incoming channels for information, crafting a strategic or branding theme for the library, coming up with the right key questions, outlining the whole data collection messages and process, brainstorming how you put the data together and purporting the process, and then identifying task leads and the time frames. So we thought, and I think this is right, that we start with the staff, where the staff finds out about the new mission statement or the updated mission statement, and then gives their input. And this starts a conversation which is useful both to long-range planning, but also for staff development and for general management of the library. So we had a long conversation about that. It was very productive. Tim's summary of this, I think, and it's in his self-evaluation, is very good. You got to start with the why statement. Why do we exist? Which is the mission statement. So I think I'd like to ask Natalie and or Luann what you guys thought about the meeting and what you have been doing since then.
Luann, I can take this if you want. If I miss anything, please jump in. Okay,
It was,
sure. Yep. So when we met with Andy, I think we felt like very rejuvenated. Like it was like a lot of energy, and we were like, yeah, we have an idea on how we want to do this. And again, I think, hearing from our staff, we are planning to do stuff like right after staff development day. I've been trying to actually have a staff committee meeting tomorrow to kind of finalize staff development day. And I'm going to try and see if there's a little bit of space to kind of workshop a little bit with a mission statement. We did bring the idea to our department heads to give them a space to talk about our mission statement. And they were going to bring it back to their staff and kind of collect information from us. So I believe we're going to try to see if we can have a little bit of time on staff development day to do that. Definitely work through the department heads about the mission statement. And then after staff development day, I think we're going to kind of do that staff survey or staff focus group.
Right. Yeah. And kind of going along with that. So once we sort of internalize the mission statement, we also need, going from that, we need a new tagline for the library. It used to be Gilman's Gathering Place. This is pre-pandemic. And then the pandemic hit, and well, we weren't Gilman's Gathering Place anymore. Nobody was gathering. So, I want the tagline to kind of work in concert with the mission statement. So, you know, I also do want to have staff input with that as well. I think it's important to have the staff buy-in for that as well.
Right, and then you go out, and then you have the plans for going out to the community based upon what the best thoughts of the staff and the board and everything on, start collecting, you know, what the community thinks about the mission statement, what they think about the tagline, and how they think we can live up to all of that.
Yes, definitely. And Alish had some good insights as well when we met virtually. And also, I just wanted to mention that the Fact Finders group that had originally done some marketing research for us, which is right down the road on Western Avenue, they did send us some older reports that they had. This is going back to, I think it was, what was it, Andy? 2003 was the oldest one.
Oh,
2003, 2009, something like that. There was a few different reports. So they're not really doing a lot right now. They're just very selective at this point about what kind of projects they're taking on. But there's, you know, there's some kind of like background data that we could extrapolate from those as well.
Yeah, I think the most important fact from the 2009 report was the very high percentage of people in Gilman who had library cards. And I know this was one of Tim's concerns and stuff. This is, you know, why do we seem to have so many fewer people with library cards now? Now, we need to look at, you know, how they collected that data, right? You know, and you know, was that really households, or, you know, what was it? But I do think that it points up this notion about how do we get more people getting library cards, which is the passport, okay, to the travels that people can make in the library. You know, just like our passport for people traveling physically, you know, it's a passport for people traveling emotionally and intellectually. You know, that might be a good task. Your library card, your passport to the world.
Right.
Okay, you know, and you know, I think it's really important for the board to understand, you know, I mean, there's going to be you know, new board members and stuff who need to take a look at this, you know, because I'm just a lame duck or just lame now, and you know, these are my ideas about how it's done, and you know, out there in the business world and stuff. But this notion of planning and focusing on a mission and using the mission as the focus for everyone is really important. And it's something that has to be an ongoing thing, and it structures not only what the board's discussions are about everything they do, but it also structures the performance evaluations, the position descriptions and everything on how everyone contributes to the achievement of that mission, you know, the why we exist, you know, and how we do that. So this is something that needs to go on and needs to become a centerpiece. And maybe you might want to consider combining the policy and planning committees. In most businesses and in the government, there is an office of policy and planning because they work together, because policy is driven by the planning. So that's something to consider, putting the policy and planning committees together.
Yeah, and I just want to say, Andy, you've offered some really excellent insights, and we really do appreciate, you know, all the experience that you bring to this, and you know, giving us a lot of great feedback and ways to think about this. So thank you very much.
Welcome.
Great. Thanks for that, Andy. I guess the next is cafe. Peter.
All right, 1 second. There we go. I wanted to make sure I was up on the screen here. So May 11th, we met at Cafe Con Mel. I said it correct. I made sure I wrote it down. I messed it up the other day.
Good job.
Thank you. And Alicia had recommended a cafe for us to check out as we try and figure out a way to occupy the space inside the library. So Tim, Natalie, Kathy, Phil, Alicia, myself went over there. The two ladies who run the location, very generous. We had some food while we were there, some desserts. I know some of those desserts made their way back to staff at the library, which I hope they enjoyed that. And so we went there to go check it out. And in the last couple meetings that we've had discussions about what to do. Should we put out the same RFP? Should we simplify it? And I think the general consensus was to maybe simplify it. There was an email that was received, I don't think by everybody, but those who were on the cafe committee, as Tim Riley had actually inquired with Tim Wiles about whether we need to put a new RFP out. And Tim Riley actually sent that email off to Chris Lanchanton, and she responded back. Did everybody see it, or am I the only one who saw the people on the cafe committee? So, did everybody see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, Chris's statement was, hey, you know, you put it out there, you didn't really get anybody who wanted to bite at the time. And so you don't need to put out an RFP. If you have somebody who's interested, let's try and get them to occupy the space. So the owners of that cafe are Melanie Diaz, and she is a trained chef. Graduate, I believe she said, from Schenectady Community College. And then Joy, who is Filipino, and combined, they make some delicious food. Those of you who have seen me in person, some of you have not, obviously can look at me and say, that guy likes food. I do. And it was absolutely delicious. A wonderful, wonderful experience. Very, very nice people. And so the question is, do we put another RFP out, or do we just go ahead and say to them, hey, you're interested, let's get what your proposal is and kind of work on that. So I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself because it's after all these committee reports that comes up in old business, but I figured I'd just merge it together and just kind of see what everyone's consensus was. I mean, the food was phenomenal. That's what I'm going to tell you. And I even said, you know, obviously at the end of next month will be the end of my 10 years on the library board. I made a joke and I said, you know, I wasn't thinking about running, but if you're going to be in the library and you might have food like this on board meeting nights, I might think of doing a write-in campaign. But obviously I didn't do it. I mean, it was really, really good. That's all I'll say. So any questions, anybody want to discuss anything with it, I'm more than willing to talk. And I know Alicia has some great insight as to that business and her experience and knowing those two individuals. So if anybody has
yeah, I can give a little bit of context just because, you know, obviously when we were there, I got we did the story of like how we met, but I will just say from my experience knowing Joy and Melanie, they are big into their community. You know, they operate out of Cohoes at the moment, but they're the two kind of people that will, you know, do anything they can for their community, help promote. You know, they are big supporters of the LGBTQIA community and host different events at their location. So they do support, you know, a wide range of community groups as well. Melanie herself is Puerto Rican as well. I know you mentioned Joy is Filipino, and so I went thinking, I kind of waited to see if anybody else came in since I'm not on the cafe committee. But my first thought was, you know, it'd be a great a value add to the community to have, you know, different like food options. You know, not somebody that's going to bring in just the traditional stuff. I know they're planning a pretty wide variety of meals on their menu, and just knowing that drive on Western, there's nothing in between that huge like length of that road, unless you want to wait in line forever at Starbucks. So I think us having this option will be like a great community value add, and they honestly couldn't be nicer people. And I think they would be great representatives of the library in addition to representatives for their own business. So I think too, if anybody wants to get an idea of the kind of food they have, they do have their cafe operating in Cohoes, and they do what is that? Eat in the Street starting on Friday nights in Cohoes. So if you want to go check out their food for yourself, that's a good place to do it. But we had these delicious rice bowls. So we did have Puerto Rican food when we were there. We had rice bowls with it wasn't pernil this time. I think she did chicken, just to make sure there was, no dietary issues. So, but very, very good. So
Did you get any idea about what they might do with the cafe, what their ideas are?
Yeah, so we talked about operating hours there, and discussions that we've had in the cafe committee was the fact that in all likelihood, the cafe wouldn't be open every hour, probably closing in the evening, not staying open until the minute we close. And I just lost my train of thought, Andy, and I apologize. So repeat it again. What your
I can help.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
Peter, just because I remember some of this. So they were going to be doing a lot of breakfast and lunch offerings specifically, but they would also be open and available to doing event catering and things like that. That's her main business. Is in addition, the cafe is catering, so she has a pretty wide repertoire of things that she can make. But the idea is the day-to-day would be breakfast sandwiches in the morning, lots of grab and go, breakfast items, coffees, lattes. They have a bunch of interesting drinks. So they would have that kind of stuff. And then lunch would be salad, sandwiches, to-go rice bowls, similar to what we had tried when we were there. Desserts. Joy likes baking, so she makes a lot of different Filipino desserts and things like that. So the cookie we tried was made out of ube. That was the thing that we tried at lunch. So there would be a pretty wide variety with sort of like rotating specials and things like that. So I know, for example, for St. Patrick's Day, oh no, that was one thing I forgot. Breakfast empanadas. So something that people can eat in their car really easily because sandwiches can be pretty messy. And then I know for like St. Patrick's Day, they did like a corned beef and cabbage empanada, and they do various like rotating. There you go. You got the picture on the screen of the cookie. But then she also said that she would be, up for just seeing what worked best for the staff and people coming by. So she would be adaptable depending, but she can make everything from like Italian food to whatever, it's just, she wanted to make things easy for people to grab and go and eat quickly.
Barbara, did you have a question? You're muted.
I just wanted to make a comment that I don't think we have to go out with another RFP. Our lawyer says it's a go. We can just go ahead and do this. And the enthusiasm of, Peter and Alish, certainly I would give these ladies a try.
Yeah.
Is that what the lawyer said that we?
Yes, lawyer said we
use the original RFP? Do we have to send that to them?
She did not say that. I actually, give me like 1 second. Hold on. Apologies. She said, "Hi, Tim. As they went through the RFP process and were unsuccessful, they can certainly engage other methods. Here, as they did not get any acceptable applicants to the RFP, if they have someone, yes, go for it. If it doesn't work, then we can discuss a second RFP in the future, So that would be the suggestion. And based on what Chris Lanchanton said, I would say we just bypass putting that RFP out, allow them to submit the business proposal. There might be some adjustments, Kathy. We talked about some things that maybe we thought should be simplified in the RFP. So maybe there would be things they say, hey, you had that previously. I don't know. I just like to see what their business proposal is and try and get them moving so that we can get them in there. They are very, very excited about coming out to our area. And I personally am very, very excited about them also coming out to our area. Now, is there any more questions? Is everybody all right with that?
Marcia?
Muted.
You're muted, Marcia.
Muted.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Have they seen the space that we have available?
Yes, they came and they did a walkthrough with Tim and looked at the space. The only question they had was concerning heating up stuff. That's an ongoing discussion that we have, but most of their stuff will be made in Cohoes and then brought over if it was something that needed to be cooked. But we're in discussions about that right now. And again, I think we get more as that business proposal comes in.
Sure. The
Weren't
other
you
question,
still also wanting that door, Peter?
Yes,
Something about a door?
yes, yeah, and that was, yeah, the discussion about, because right behind the cafe, we have that kitchen area that we
Right.
utilize for programs. So that's a topic of discussion is could we give them access to that area either by creating a door into there or whatever method we got to figure out so that if they did want to heat something up with the stove, they could. And I think we were all open to looking at that. You know,
Okay.
again, I have a feeling based on the food and those two individuals and how great they seemed and the way they interacted with us, I think that it would become highly successful. That's what I would say.
I just have
Good.
2 more questions.
Marcia?
One is, will they make allowances for children? You know, because people, particularly with breakfast, if parents come, would they be able to retrofit a kid's menu in there? You
So
know,
their statement to us is that they would work with us to develop things that are acceptable. You know, I mean, they have their established menu, but they're open to other
right. 2
things.
other questions.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Peter.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, no.
Go ahead.
Are their prices on the reasonable side as
Reasonable.
opposed?
Absolutely.
Good.
Yep.
Great. And the third is, what's their address?
So
It sounds like a great place. I'd like to go. eat
Elise,
there.
do you know the exact? I have to pull it up in my email.
I can get it. I know it's on
Yeah.
Remsen Street. I will say that my kids have gone to their their cafe and they love their drinks and their food. And plus,
Okay, I can look them up. Don't worry about it.
133 Remsen Street, Cohoes, New York. So
Are
it's
they
right
open on weekends?
across there. It's in that like main area. There's like a bakery and
No.
Are they open on weekends?
they are. Yep.
Okay. This sounds wonderful. I don't think we need an RFP at
Nope.
all again. And, you know, I would say we should go to ask them for a proposal that we
Yes,
can put
and that's
before.
what I like to do. And then the other thing I would say too is if you do have questions about like their menu or the food, they told me to go to Facebook where they do have a page, and I actually sat there going through the different food items and thinking I should just sit there for hours. But anyways, I know I keep talking about food. It's what I love. That's what I love.
Yeah.
So anyways, there's that.
I'm all for going ahead and getting a proposal and,
All right.
and scooping them up.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just have a question. I'm not sure if this was maybe considered by the cafe committee. I'm completely in agreement with going forward with them. Has the cafe committee considered whether or not food would be allowed in the library, or is there food allowed in the library now?
Natalie, do you have an answer? I know Tim mentioned it. I can't think
Yeah.
exactly what he said. But
Yeah, food is I mean, you know, we do have a little bit of like, you know, issues with the COVID stuff, but yeah, patrons have been bringing in food, and we had that discussion with Mel that the type of food that they would do, like, you know, the empanadas or the sandwiches, it would be something that they could neatly bring into the library. Like they absolutely can bring the coffees into the library, and they were talking about having different menu items that like if you had like a bowl of something that you wanted to eat in the cafe, then that couldn't be brought into the library. So yeah, we have definitely talked about that, but food in general is okay in the library.
Okay, I'm a little bit concerned with the, I guess I'm a book kind of like, I don't know. I just don't want the books to get all like messy or, you know, so that's my concern for the books and for the actual library itself. But I'm sure they could work something out.
I will also just point out that I think we discussed that they would be selling books as well.
yes,
To help
yep.
benefit the library, and they were on board with that. And that they were also amenable to, somebody had suggested, I think it might have been Natalie, working with different community organizations to help employ, you know, it was, you know, specifically disabled individuals or, you know, different groups that might not have easy access to other employment, and they were on board with that as well.
Yes.
So,
And the other thing I would share too is that Phil and myself had talked in the past about an idea, and I actually asked Melanie if she would be interested in it, which was looking at the possibility of doing a program of eventually in the future where we do it, maybe people can join on a Zoom, WebEx, whatever it is that is being utilized, and patrons could come in and she would show how to make a meal, and we would submit the resumes. She is a trained chef. She said she had thought about doing that in the past.
That's great.
I see a lot of opportunities with it. I mean, it's exciting. This is the #1 issue that I've been pushing since I've been on this board, is the cafe. So I'm excited to see it coming, and hopefully we'll get some conclusion before I leave at the end of June. That's what I'm hopeful for. But it sounds like everybody's on board with pushing it out to them and letting them see if they're interested. And then if there's no other questions.
So what does the board need to do now to move forward with this?
I don't think we need to do a motion on it, Kathy. Do you think we need to do a motion on it or no? Or
I don't think so, because we have a consensus to ask for a business plan.
yes, yeah,
So I think that's what we should do.
yeah. So that's what we'll do. And just real quick, I know it didn't get mentioned, or maybe I missed it in the beginning. I know that we had one specific candidate who ran for the library board. So I want to take a moment and just congratulate Alish on knocking it out of the park. You got the highest numbers I told you would. And I know you're excited about it. I had a great conversation with you at the cafe. I think the board is in a good place having you on here. So look forward to seeing what happens.
Yes, you're here.
Oh, thanks everyone. I keep saying I cheated because I was the only one on there, but I'll take it. Any win's a win.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you guys.
Oh,
So,
and Peter, I just wanted to ask you one question. You had said earlier, what were the proposed operating hours again?
So we had a discussion with them about the hours, right? So looking in the morning and seeing what time they would open up. But they would, I believe that we mentioned like maybe 6, 7 on an evening close, because after that, they have to clean up. And how many patrons do we have coming in? Is it necessary to keep it open to the last minute? And I don't think it probably is. And even there was a discussion about possibly doing like a vending thing where people could come after they were out of there. I'm not really in support of that. I think most people would know that, hey, listen, the cafe's open till 6. Get your stuff before 6 and be fine with that. But
Great.
Phil?
I think Tim had his hand up first, though, if you wanted to jump in.
No, I was just going to add that you should expect traffic from the nursing home visitors and from the Y. Don't forget the Y is just around the corner there too. So you're going to get a lot of people in the morning leaving the Y from a workout, stopping in the cafe.
Right.
and Tim, the other thing I'd say is, so when I was in college, I actually worked as an activities therapist assistant at Our Lady Mercy Life Center right behind us. And going back to that programming aspect of cooking the food, it'd be interesting to see if they could do that over there. I'm sure a lot of the residents would actually probably enjoy it. I know they have large screens in their cafeterias, mess hall, whatever you want to call it, dining areas. And maybe they would like to join in on that. But yeah, I think it will draw a lot of people, especially with the building, the new construction that's going on back by the YMCA, sidewalks, all that stuff that's happening.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I don't know that we landed on exact hours during that discussion, but we did talk about, as part of the business plan, or just as part of how the library would run things, that, we'd readdress every few months, what traffic's like and if they need to adjust their hours or anything else. I really got the feeling that they weren't a business that was going to be taking up some space in the library, but they were a community partner that would be working with the library, and they were excited to do so. So I think, we don't have as much to worry about in this scenario, because they're going to be willing to work with the library so that both can be successful.
Great.
Great. Anybody else? Right. Well, it was certainly delicious food.
It was.
All right. Moving on to foundation. Norina.
Yes, so I think our meetings are actually a week after the library meeting, so we are meeting next week. But I did want to say that in regards to the grand opening and / anniversary of the library that we're planning for October, I'd like to start a subcommittee to help me out. So I would need at least one more board member, and I would suggest probably at least 2 staff members. I'm volunteering Natalie, but also would be open to other, you know, help because it's going to be a lot of details. So,
I can help, Norina.
okay. So does this have to be like a formal committee? Can we just be like ad hoc meeting to discuss about this? Ad hoc, I'm seeing head nods. Okay, that's fine. So I have
Not agree.
Alicia,
Yeah.
Natalie. Natalie, do you think we should include someone else maybe from the staff? that could-
Yeah, I don't want to, put Luann on the spot, but if she's not interested, then I can open it up to maybe our staff committee to see if one of them wants to. Luann is on our staff committee too, but I have a meeting with them tomorrow, so I'll see if one of them is interested.
Okay.
I can definitely contribute. Sure. Yeah,
Okay, excellent. Thanks so much.
sure.
Dorina, what was the date of the grand opening again?
Gosh, I knew you were gonna ask me that. I should have pulled it up. Hold on. I have to find my notes here. Hold on 1 second.
Was it October 22nd?
Yeah, it was October something. I'm just trying to find out.
So
Like
just
I think it
Norina,
was supposed to be the
happy-
21st and the 22nd. Like I think you were gonna do 21st for adults, like a wine fundraiser thing, and then the 22nd was supposed to be for kids, like family.
Yep, I have October 21st and 22nd, correct.
So just a heads up, I may or may not be able to attend the actual event, but I'm happy to help with like all the planning. I'm waiting to see my niece's wedding day. I'll be flying out to California, but just that's the only thing.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we'll miss you, but hopefully you can help me before that time.
I might be there. I just didn't want to commit to the day of, but I can
Yeah,
definitely help with
understand.
planning.
Marina, I'm happy to help as well too. I
Thanks
can
so
be your
much.
backup since
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we need all the help we can get, I think.
Yeah.
So just a quick question, is this like an official ad hoc committee? Is this something we need to take a vote on?
Maybe we do.
Because
Uh,
if it's an ad hoc committee, then it's supposed to be approved by the board, appointed by the president and approved by the board. So if we're delegating them any authority to actually do anything, or I think we might need to take a vote. I don't know. But
Are there any?
Is there a motion to form the ad hoc committee for the purpose of planning the grand opening on October 21st and 22nd?
I make the motion.
Andy, second?
Second.
Second, Mike?
Mm.
All right, any discussion? Barbara?
I don't really know if you need a motion. This is simply a grand opening, people working together. How official it has to be, I'm not really sure.
Well,
Well,
it's
if-
called an ad hoc committee. I mean, we have a number of those, and I think they're all official committees of the board. So it doesn't hurt to establish it formally, even though it's a relatively short-lived committee since it's for a specific date. So we
Would
have
the
a
committee,
motion. Excuse
but
me?
would the committee bring any actions to the board as a whole to consider or vote on?
And also, I think this is a subcommittee of the foundation.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
It's
because it's the foundation that's putting on the grand opening or reopening, and we're asking for extra members to participate specifically for that. So my understanding is that it's a subcommittee of the foundation. I don't know if that makes a difference, but
so it's not actually a board committee.
Right,
It's a foundation committee.
will we be using any
foundation.
library funds, or is it all being paid by the foundation?
Well, we're using staff, I think, to do the programming for the Saturday for the kids. Some programming, yes, will be used.
So let's authorize the foundation committee to establish a subcommittee to do what they need to do to get the job done. All right, what's the harm in that?
We don't control the foundation. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a foundation committee. I think I'm the liaison to the foundation for the board. So there is no foundation committee per se. That's my understanding.
Right.
But
So it's a board committee?
library? But won't
No,
they be
it's
doing
not.
that impact on the library?
What's that?
Won't they, won't, do we let the foundation do anything it wants? Or, do we look at what they're doing and say, look, this is in benefit of the library? Because it's not just a fundraising issue. You're gonna have this big, celebration and all of that, which should do all kind of stuff. So it's sort of neither just a foundation nor neither just a library.
Yeah, I think
Hybrid.
I think it could be like the liaison committee, I guess, for this particular purpose. So I'm fine with calling it that and being a committee. I don't see a problem with that.
All right, well, we have a motion on the floor then to establish this ad hoc committee for the purpose of planning the grand opening of the library. All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Is anyone opposed? All right, then the motion passes, establishing this committee at 7:22 p.m.
Okay, and the thing that's still me on the personnel committee, we met twice in the past well since the board met last time. And specific issues were discussed that will be presented for the bargaining with the union. We have one more meeting with our attorney before presenting those issues to the union. And then negotiations will start.
Okay. Sounds like you're going to be busy.
Yeah.
All right. Labor management is me, and we haven't had a recent meeting. I'm sure there's one scheduled, I believe, in June, but I don't have the exact date. Policy, Barbara?
Sure. We met last Friday and sort of began reviewing some of the bylaws that basically deal with the formation of committees and, certain duties. And that will be continued at a follow-up meeting.
Okay, great. COVID action, Vanessa.
Yep. So the COVID Action Committee has not met. We are planning to convene in once Tim is back, but we do have some new business for later in the meeting. I guess that's how I do it, Kathy.
That sounds good. We have it on the we have it on the under
Yep.
new business
Yeah,
because
so-
I know that the committee hadn't met yet.
Right. Yep. Okay. I'll wait till later for the rest.
All right, and UHLS, we're still looking for somebody to be the UHLS representative. We don't have one at the moment. So moving on to old business, we have, I believe, the final version of the contract for the farmers market to be from July 3rd to October 2nd in the upper parking lot. So hopefully you've all had a chance to look at that. I think it was sent out by email. It's also part of the I think it's also part of the packet. So was there any well, I guess I'll just ask for a motion to approve the contract.
I'll make that motion, Kathy.
Barbara, and a second?
Second.
Walish. Okay, so is there any discussion?
I had a couple of questions.
Okay.
One was, and you all might have discussed this and I missed it if there was discussion last meeting, but it has the dates and the day of the week of the market. Are we adding any parameters of time of day for the market? Because the way the contract reads, it's kind of like the parking lot area belongs to the farmer's market on Sundays, like during their use, but it's unclear to me when we expect that use to be, or if we need to be more specific, I don't know. And then my other question was about the location of the porta potties. I guess I hadn't anticipated that there would be a porta potty. It makes sense, but I didn't know if there was any discussion or if we wanted to direct for a location of that would not be that would be both convenient for the market, but not how can I say this, unpleasant other times when it's not in use.
Right. I know that there is something in there about cleaning the bathroom.
One of my concerns is just in that upper parking lot and some of the wind that we've experienced more recent in the last couple of years with storms. I was just curious if we were assuming that would be located in that upper parking lot as well, or if it goes somewhere else. I just didn't know where we thought it might go.
That's a good question. I don't think that this, I think
it might not have to go in this document, but it's something we probably want to think about.
Right. And also, I'm not sure about the hours. Typically, I mean, farmers markets that I've been to are typically like start at 10 and go, so it's also sometime in the afternoon, something like that. But I mean, I don't know if that's exactly what they have in mind, but they typically have hours that are convenient for people to attend. So I'm not sure. I know they didn't put specific hours. Maybe they're trying to be a little bit flexible on that. I'm not sure, but
The
it's
market in Schenectady, for reference, is from 10 to 2 and has been for as long as I've been living out here. And, you know, obviously the vendors will show up probably within an hour beforehand, and they don't want to stay there too late. They've got to get back to their farm, sometimes driving a couple of hours. Business usually ends up drying up by the late afternoon anyway.
The Guilderland Farmers Market hours that they had originally were 10 to 2 on Sundays. So I imagine they'd be probably doing the
Probably
same
the
thing.
same. Yeah.
all right. Was there any further discussion? Do you want an individual vote, or is it
Sorry, one more question.
sure.
So is this is the first time that the library has hosted a farmer's market, or in its history?
Yes.
Okay. Is there something in this? So I am not a contracts expert, but if something were not to go, or this does not work out as we had envisioned, or it's not in the best interest of the library or something like that, are we committed to hosting them no matter what through October 2nd? Is there anything in here that allows any recourse or sort of reassessment?
It says here in
I
the
don't-
contract that that the library may terminate this agreement at any
Okay,
time
then I
on
missed that.
5 days written notice.
Okay, sorry, I missed that.
So that's
Item 5, yep.
all right. Any further questions or discussion? Natalie?
I don't really have a question, and again, I don't know if it needs to be written in here, but it was a concern that was brought up with staff on how much staff time will be needed to do this. I know there was conversations between Tim Wiles and Luann on the marketing of it. I believe she's going to be, making a simple graphic or anything like that. But the concern was that we didn't want staff time devoted to this because this is obviously a for-profit business and we just didn't want to be seen, in works with that. So again, I don't know if that needs to be, written in here that Scott will be responsible for his own marketing if he has like flyers or brochures or anything. So we were just concerned with the amount of staff time that was going to be dedicated to this.
I don't
There's
think
not-
I don't think any staff time was supposed to be dedicated. I thought that they don't have access to the library. So it's just their business setting up there, and I don't think they were having anything to do with staff time. It says here that they have to clean up and they have to make the site neat and tidy after they get done. So that's their responsibility. I don't see that that staff, the only thing that's in there that staff would be doing potentially is or volunteers or somebody, maybe the foundation would be potentially running a booth for free. I think it's in there somewhere that says that
Correct.
right,
Yeah.
that
Well, they have to provide it. They have to provide the space, but there's nothing in the contract that requires the library to do anything.
Right.
To
correct.
let them use the upper parking lot.
Yeah, I think this is a self-contained, the guy's done this before. He knows how to run it. I don't think he's expecting any help from the library, except to provide the space and accept his check.
No, I
Right.
appreciate that. I just wanted to, bring this. It was a, concern among staff, and I just wanted to bring it to the
Sure,
board.
of course, yeah.
Right. Barbara?
I was just wondering though, as a good faith gesture, couldn't we just on our sign, farmer's market today, 10 to 2 or something like that?
Oh,
So-
correct. Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe Tim did talk to Luann about that, and we are going to provide a simple graphic. I think the more concern was, if once this starts getting publicized, patrons are going to start calling the library about the farmers market. So it's like, how many questions are going to be, at the reference desk? And we were kind of wondering if, Scott could provide like I said, a brochure or anything so that staff could just refer to his operation so that they would not have to learn about it or provide all of that information.
But on the other hand, any assistance that we can answer to the public does goodwill for the library.
Right.
So this benefits the library that we have people go in there and that we answer their questions.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a motion. If there's any more discussion, my phone is ringing. It's probably nobody. All right. So all in favor of the contract, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 And all right. Is there anyone opposed? All right, it passes. It passes unanimously at 7:34 p.m. All right. Old business. We have the RFP for the GPL Cafe. I think we've already thoroughly discussed that.
Correct.
So I do not think we need to discuss it again. Now we go on to new business, which I have the COVID policy, and that's on there because of Tim noticed that I think the Albany Library had changed its policy from the COVID policy like we had to a more, I guess you'd say, streamlined version. So I guess Vanessa can
Sure,
really.
they,
that.
Albany Public Library has basically taken, has rescinded their state of emergency, and which means that they're no longer operating under their continuation of service plan. So we thought that it would be important to discuss that as a board and consider if people were willing to vote on that tonight or needed more time. I think, Kathy, you said the threshold was, is it 2/3 of all board members or board members present? Or I think we're all here.
Yeah,
So we could
all of
vote tonight, or we could vote next time. And really, it's basically just the board's position on if we continue to operate under the pandemic operations plan, which is the current sort of leveled approach. One thing that I do want to mention is that in Albany's case, they did retain or they did issue some language or that says something like at high transmission levels as determined by the CDC for Albany County, the library will reduce or suspend services at the discretion of the director and board president, or it could be the committee. We could also include something that the library would continue to follow CDC or Albany County DOH recommendations on masks, right? So it really just basically takes the pandemic operations plan and continuations of services offline, but that would be a board decision.
Okay, as someone who has a lot of experience in emergency management, all organizations should have a continuity of operations plan that applies to any emergencies or anything that's going on, which we don't have. So that's something that we need to look to, doing in the future. But as far as now is concerned, it doesn't look like there's an emergency anymore, and it looks like what Albany is doing, plus what Tim is suggesting in terms of following the CDC guidelines, is appropriate.
Can I just ask a quick question? I'm just curious, what's the reason for the 2/3 requirement of the board?
That would be well,
just
that's
to
the
take
way,
it under consideration tonight is my understanding, right, Kathy? It could
right.
be
If
a
you
simple
wanted to vote on something that is presented for the very first time, I think the 2/3 majority would be to take the vote, not to vote. I mean, the vote is just a majority.
Yeah, simple majority.
But that's, at least that's the way it used to always be done on the school board. So I assume that it's that way. I'm not sure if there's enough detail for everyone to vote on this right now, but if you think that essentially it would be I think to rescind, Vanessa can correct me if I'm right, would it be to rescind the current plan in favor of a
I
more,
think it would be to suspend operation under the current POP and continuation of service plan associated with the POP. I understand Andy's point that there's not a broader continuation of services plan for emergency planning.
Right.
I'm referring to the chart at the end of our pandemic operations plan.
Right. Yeah.
It's also, I think, unless we really get into bad shape again, I think it is unlikely that mask mandates and vaccine mandates and all that stuff will come back politically, right? So this gives you more flexibility in responding according to what's actually going to happen, who knows, in the summer and then as the fall goes on.
Right. And I think when it comes to masks too, you have to consider that that you have children at the library who are too young to be vaccinated. So, I mean, that's another consideration in terms of high times of high COVID transmission. So,
So just in fairness for sort of a balanced presentation, I do need to say that currently Albany County is at a high community level according to the CDC. So just to play this out, and I just, I gave the APL version of this, but also this would mean if we decided to take up a vote tonight and we decided as a board that we were going to discontinue operating under the current POP, it would be a significant shift because right now we're operating under the highest sort of level of protection in our plan, and we would basically be going to at the discretion of the library director in consultation with the board. So I don't present that to sway anyway, kind of sort of stating the current operating status.
Right. And because nobody knows what's going to happen in the next month, I think you need to give the library board and the director the flexibility to respond to the actual circumstances that we're confronted with. That's what an emergency manager is all about.
okay.
Just out of curiosity, like how strict is our policy compared to say like the public schools at the moment? Are we in alignment with them? Or are we more strict?
I don't think we're I
The
don't think
lib-
are
sorry.
similar necessarily. I'm not sure
In what
what the schools are doing.
I mean, right, are we currently, the library requiring masks at the moment? I think there's a sign in the lobby that we're asking people to wear masks, right? And the schools right now have no mask requirement. And we've closed down the children, what is it called? The meadow play area, where, the schools, the kindergartens and everything are open for, full in person. So, I mean, I think we are more restricted than the public schools are right now.
I think that's true, Mike. To my knowledge, the schools have not canceled things or closed things up. The performances are still going on. The prom is going on. But at the library, we have closed that room, and we have strongly recommended masks and offer them to our guests.
I think you have to look at the actual circumstances. In the school, you've got 28 kids sitting in a classroom, within X number of feet of each other. Okay, and I think that may apply to the meadow and that other stuff. But on the whole, okay, in the library, you've got people who are walking around who are not spending 6 hours in the same classroom with the same people, right? So, you have to look at the actual circumstances and the threat that is evident in the place. You may have different rules for different parts of the building.
You also want to consider the staff though as well. You may say someone's walking in, grabbing a book and walking out, what's the harm? But the staff is dealing with, dozens of people every day going through in and out.
Right. So there might be a different rule for staff than there is for the general public who are walking in to grab a book off the reserve shelf and move out.
Well, my only point is that we allow them to walk in without a mask when the staff is exposed. That they may be wearing a mask all day to protect themselves, but who else is protecting them? And that's our job.
Oh, but yeah.
Sorry, can I just interject? I think Phil wanted to say something and he had his hand up for a really long time. Sorry.
Phil? You're muted.
Look at that, I did it. So a couple of things. the reason we had a POP in the first place is because the state mandated we needed to have one, and I assume follow it. Are we even legally allowed to just suspend the POP because we feel like it? And if people haven't looked into that, and if we're having this much conversation about, what the rules really need to be and how we might implement it and how we might have different rooms for or different rules for different people in different areas, I don't think we can just suspend the policy we have without having anything in front of us to replace it. I don't think that makes any sense, and I don't think it's a safe move.
Barbara?
I think our whole plan was sort of gotten from the Albany Public Library. And I think Tim was in discussions with the Albany Public Library people and is bringing this forward to us. Just to respond to Tim's point, in the schools, you can wear a mask. You don't have to wear a mask. If you go to a church or a synagogue, nobody is telling you that you have to have a mask or not have a mask. If you go shopping, things are open. The other libraries are open. To my knowledge, are not requiring masking. And I would have no problem with adopting what Albany has now adopted, having a lived experience, with the issue, and go from there.
Have you read Albany's plan? Has anybody here read Albany's plan?
No.
So
Yeah,
we'll just
it's-
adopt that. I mean, considering how much contention there is over things like taking the one person who was willing to be a volunteer to fill a role that we haven't had for a month, and we were ready to punt that for a couple more months before we make that decision. It's kind of surprising to be like, let's just get rid of the plan that took months to put in place and replace it with nothing right now.
I just want to clarify that this is not a recommendation of the COVID committee. This topic was brought up at the request of the director. So to clarify, there's no recommendation on the floor on forward action from the committee. As I stated in our committee reports, the committee has not had a chance to meet. But as a courtesy, as this ultimately would be a full board decision to take away or sort of discontinue operating under the POP, it was presented tonight.
Marcia?
For clarifying.
Yeah, I think at this point in time, I agree with Phil. I have no idea. I don't even know if we even have anything to the table in terms of language. I've not seen Albany. I did read the email about what Albany is doing. I think there's enough flexibility in the POP right now because it follows the CDC guidelines. And as Vanessa said, the committee hasn't met, so there's no formal proposal. So I understand as a courtesy to Tim that we're discussing this, but I'm not prepared to vote on anything that I haven't seen and we haven't had a meeting with the committee. So I suggest we table this. We have a committee meeting. Ask Janet to set up a doodle poodle, whatever it's called, so that we can.
I'll do the doodle. You
Yeah,
don't
I
have to
think
do it, Jenna. I'll do the doodle.
whoever does it, because I know it's not going to be me. So, but since we'd never get there. But I think we should have a committee meeting and we should look at what Albany did. But I think at this point in time, sitting tight with the POP is the way to go.
I would just like to
I'm sorry.
read. This is from the Albany website. Masks are no longer required in state of emergency lifted at APL. Albany Public Library is returning to normal operations after the Board of Trustees removed the state of emergency that was enacted at the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic in March 2020. The board unanimously voted to rescind the state of emergency as its regular meeting on May 10th. The move takes effect immediately. This means that masks are no longer required inside the library building. However, due to high rate of COVID transmission to the community and Albany County's recommendation, the library is strongly suggesting that visitors and staff wear masks while indoors. Masks are available at all library branches for those who may want one. The library will also return to a normal state of operations. Services and programs will be offered to patrons without pandemic restrictions. At times, staff capacity may limit what is available at a particular location. Over the past 2 years, the Albany Public Library has learned best practices to keep our staff and patrons safe while providing services to the community within our organizational capacity. By lifting the state of emergency and pandemic operations protocol, which restricted services across all locations, our staff will be able to pivot services as needed. We'll be better equipped to make changes at a micro or branch level when needed in order to continue to provide programming, meeting spaces, and in-person services, said APL Interim Director Melanie Metzger.
Exactly my point. Okay, so what they're doing is exactly what emergency management people know to do. They've lifted the stage of emergency. They've said the specific continuity of operations plan that they had for this emergency is no longer in effect, and we're going to let the people who are on the ground, who know what's going on, make the decisions based upon the best available information. That's standard emergency management procedure.
And I think that's
Jim,
kind of what Vanessa
say
had
something?
suggested. Vanessa had suggested that, unless I'm wrong, Vanessa, and correct me if I am, but that Tim and the board president would be able to make the decision if they saw necessary. Hey, listen, numbers are getting, crazy. They're increasing again. Hey, we need to restrict it. Let's go ahead and do that. And I think if that's included in it, it covers the basis on that we have a plan that they can do what they need to do as needed.
We had a couple questions. Tim, I think you were first.
Yeah, thank you. This came about when some of the numbers were rising, and forgive me, and Natalie, correct me if I misstate anything, but we were going by the letter of the law, which said if your numbers go this way, the meadow gets closed. And we wanted to have a little more flexibility with that, since the perceived community perception is that it's not as drastic as it was, 10 months ago. But Tim doesn't have that freedom right now, because you have a protocol or a POP, and he had to abide by it. We all agreed it wasn't appropriate to just shift things around willy-nilly. So numbers went like this, we closed the meadow. We want a little more flexibility to manage that.
Bill, did you have a question too?
No, I'm going to try not to talk this whole thing to death.
And the numbers now are very different because of all of the variants and the different stuff. So things are not as clear as they were when we were in the middle of the pandemic, right? So we need the flexibility. We can't wait for a board meeting or something else to respond. Okay, I'm telling you, this is standard emergency management procedure. You have a continuity of operations plan, you declare an emergency, you follow the emergency procedures. When the emergency is not the same, you change.
Sounds like there's a lot of differences of opinion here. I would just maybe suggest
Kathy,
that.
can I say one more thing?
Okay.
I just want to point out for those that maybe didn't see the webpage, I think Peter found it, he was reading from it. The way the plan was implemented in Albany was that their board declared a state of emergency. I don't know that happened with our board, so I think this situation's a little bit different. And so I think, to Phil's point, there is some question. It was a great question. I don't know the answer. Sort of what the trigger is for coming out of the POP, the one that we created as a state requirement, and sort of the process for that. I'm not sure that it can be directly translated from Albany because of the mechanism that put those practices and processes into place happened a little bit different in Guilderland, it sounds like, than Albany. So yeah, and again, I just want to restate that the COVID committee hasn't had a chance to meet, and the levels are quite high right now. So
To my recollection, we never declared a state of emergency. And I think there's enough flexibility in the plan.
To put the plan in effect, okay, was your declaration of a state of emergency that you had a continuity of operations plan? Okay, you're saying, we now have a plan because we have an emergency. Yeah, there may not have been
No,
official
we
thing.
had, no, Andy, we had a plan because we had to put one in place required by the state.
Yeah, it
Right.
was.
The state
Right.
required a POP.
Yeah.
Emergency,
Yeah.
in essence,
Yeah.
right? Emergency is over now. People need flexibility, and you can't wait for committees and other stuff to make decisions for emergency managers. Now, the next question is, do we trust, the director and the chairperson of the board to make emergency management decisions? That's a different discussion. But things are changing quickly. Okay, and you can't hamstring people, by a plan. Okay, if the circumstances have changed radically. I have experience on this, with a lot of stuff like that. And as an emergency manager, sometimes you say, no, I need to know now what I need to do tomorrow.
Right, but
I'm
with
not
all
sure
due
if you read
respect,
it,
the
but
plan does allow Tim to
Yeah,
respond to
exactly.
conditions. So I don't think that's a fair characterization of what we're talking about. What I intended to bring forward was, are we ready at this point? And it seems like we're divided to make the decision as a board to stop operating under our POP. I think that myself personally, I agree that I would like the COVID committee to meet, not because we need to meet as a committee when we want to respond to an emergency, but for us to make a recommendation of what our practice and position is going to be when we remove the POP. We
Right.
haven't had an opportunity to do that. And I think that's a little different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that happened quickly.
Why don't we put this to a vote, and so we can, since we all disagree or have disagreements.
put what to a vote?
Well, I think it was suggested that we,
Whether to rescind it.
yeah, that what
So-
was recommended is that we go with what Albany said, what Peter read, and vote on it here, or not agree to do that, let the committee meet and make a recommendation at the next board meeting. That's the way I
Right,
see it, this shaking out.
Somebody is actually making the recommendation tonight. We rescind the POP and copy what's written on Albany Public Library's website.
Well, that's what
and
I
go
was
by
hearing,
that.
unless, that's what I was hearing. I could be wrong.
If
So who's making that suggestion?
Marcia,
Me?
did you make it or no? You're the one who said
Absolutely
it.
not. I'm in favor of having the committee meet and we put forward a plan at the next board meeting.
I
Well, I
move
thought you
that
said
the
I think we
board
could take a vote.
consider waiting for the committee to meet and making a proposal for action when the board decides to remove the POP. That
I'll
is my
second
motion.
that.
Right, and I'd like to recommend that the committee that the motion is that the committee meet as soon as possible to do that.
As soon as our director's back was our plan.
Well, that's January 6th, it's June 6th. That's what, 2 weeks?
I don't think that the community is at a significant disadvantage with us continuing to operate under our current POP for 2 weeks, with all due respect.
Yeah, there's
My motion,
flexibility,
we
Andy,
can
in the
discuss it
plan.
and vote on it.
Yeah, there's
All right,
flexibility.
all right. So the
We're
motion
saying-
is to refer this to the COVID committee, for this matter to the COVID committee, and the COVID committee will meet as soon as practical, okay? So I'll just take, since, I'm not
Point
sure
of
if
order.
everybody agrees, I just take a roll call on this.
Point of order.
Yeah.
So if Andy still has something he wants to say in discussion, we can't vote until he's completed his chances.
Okay, sorry.
There are community members who are concerned about the opening of the meadow. Okay, now we had a person in the community contact say that. We had one of our board members say they were upset about, well, the kids were concerned about the meadow was not open, right? So I think this needs to happen as soon as possible, and I don't know that we have to wait for the director to do this.
And I would like to say that I'm not sure it is best practice for us to throw out a whole plan for one access to one service. But let's vote on this and see. I will do my very best to schedule this meeting, and we'll go from there.
Barbara, did you have something to say? You're muted.
I just wanted to add, when we initially made the plan, the level of therapeutics was available. Certainly we're not out there. There's so much that has changed in the way of treatment and all. And as I said, people are just wanting to get back to normal, and they're able to do everything in the world outside of the library. But for some reason, we keeping access away from all our programming and all the things that this beautiful library has to offer. And I just don't understand why we are so reluctant to open to the public like the rest of our community is open. That's the part that I'm struggling with.
I'd just like to clarify that the POP, Continuation of Services Plan, has been revised and approved since said therapeutics have been introduced. So this is not an outdated plan. This is a plan that this board approved like weeks ago.
Phil?
I'd like to add that while I get that everybody wants to open up all the services and make them available, that since Albany has rescinded their state of emergency and put this new plan in place, they have had to close buildings on different days, entire buildings, not single services, because they didn't have enough staff for it because staff are getting COVID.
Yeah.
And I would just like to
Higher
say
rate
to
than they
that
used to.
point, we've had in the past 2 weeks about 8 cases of our staff with COVID.
Yeah. My granddaughter goes to private school. The school is closed because there are about 30 students in the school who have become ill with COVID. And before this meeting, I got off the phone with a friend from New York, and the cases are rising astronomically in the city. So I don't think, and with all due respect, Andy, I know where you're coming from, a good place. I don't think the world is going to come to an end if we stick with the plan that we have. It has some flexibility in it. I think Vanessa's right. There have been amendments since things have gotten better, but this is still an evolving issue. So I think the COVID committee should meet and we could report at the next board meeting. That's my view. So I think we should vote, Kathy, on what's before the board.
Okay, and the motion is to defer this matter to the COVID committee. Okay, I will take the roll. Marcia,
Yes.
Vanessa,
Yes.
Mike,
No.
Peter,
No.
Andy,
No.
Phil,
Yes.
Barbara,
Oh,
what was that?
no.
Okay. Alish,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Norina,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 yeses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, 7 yeses.
7.
7. So it passes with 7 votes. Okay. At 8:04. So we will defer this.
Because I just want, Kathy, I just want to say real quick that the vote is done. I hope that one day we will officially be open. And I just want to say, I think the letter that was read in the beginning that Andy mentioned, that Luann read, is a clear indication of what our community expects. And it's disappointing that we've done this for so long. And it's always been a long discussion at every single meeting. But enough is enough. And I think I have to go to work every day, right? Everybody has to go to work every day. We all have to function, right? I mean, we're running this library like it's totally different than everything else. And it's getting very, very frustrating to people. Very frustrating. The fact that we spent almost $9 million to do a construction project, and we have people who are paying taxes saying, I can't get into that room, is a serious problem. And I know it's easy for us to sit here on a meeting and, say whatever we want to say. let's start taking care of the community.
I think we are taking care of the community. I don't think waiting 2 more weeks is a big deal. We have a plan in place. We just voted on it, and rushing to change something does not make sense right now. You know, we can wait 2 more weeks. The room is closed. It's not really that big of a deal. We're talking to death. You know, Tim will be back. We'll talk about it then, and we'll move forward when the committee talks about it.
If I was a betting man, I would say this probably will not be resolved for the next 2 months, because that's typically how this library board has worked recently. This will get kicked, the can will kick down the road, and we'll continue to talk about this. And you know what? I had COVID. And you know what I did? I stayed at home for 2 weeks. I felt like crap. I was tired. I was sick. My wife got it. My kid got it. You know what we did? We were responsible. We stayed home. We tested. We did everything we were supposed to do. And until I was ready to come out, you know, I didn't come out, right? I mean, things have changed drastically. And we just, originally we were following the science. Now we just ignore the science or make it work for us. It's ridiculous at this
I
point.
disagree with that completely.
You can disagree with it all you want.
Yeah, which I do.
I was under the impression that when we voted as a board, and the decision became the position of the board. So I find it very disconcerting that we would have a lengthy discussion following a vote that is in opposition to it. That doesn't serve any productive purpose except for to continue to divide and show that that isn't really a true principle of this board. I thought that once we voted, that was the position of the board. And the committee has to do thankless work, quite frankly, in defending and supporting a safe environment. And again, the room in question and discussion right now is a room for humans, individuals, community members that are not yet protected from this virus. And yes, your family, I'm so sorry to hear that you had COVID. I'm so thankful that you all have recovered and are healthy. But the truth of the matter is that you contracted the virus by coming in contact with it outside of your home, bringing it into your home, and not everybody recovers.
Right. So, and I'm
I
not
think
saying
it's
everybody
really
does.
insensitive to portray it as like that simple. There are a million people, more than a million people who have died from this virus,
Absolutely,
including children. And
Yeah,
so
well-
I would just like to leave the vote where it was and move on so we can conclude the business of this meeting.
Yeah, and
I support that, and I think
Yes,
that
but hold on,
we should
I
stop
have a
this
right-
discussion
I have
because
a right to speak. I have a right to speak. So the
Okay.
only thing I would say is that we have had other issues. There are dangers in the world every single day, right? You drive a car, it's dangerous. More people die from car accidents, right? You don't hide in your house. Planes go down. We don't hide in the house. You can get a common cold. You can get the flu. You can get all these different things. You don't hide in your house. If you did, it'd be pretty sad. All right. So I understand that you're upset because you don't agree with my opinion, but I also have the right to my opinion.
Say the same to you. Clearly, you're upset as well. And I'd also like to point out that the current operating procedure is that people don't have to wear masks. And I wanted to clarify that from earlier. We are more similar to how the district is operating than dissimilar. We have restrictions at the school district for the number of people who can attend events. There are restrictions on, they still haven't returned to all of the same activities that they've had. Those same things are true for the library right now.
I think I'm good. That I agree with you, Vanessa, that we should probably just move on from this, right? Like we did the vote. I appreciate everybody voicing their opinions for sure. And I will say, as somebody with immunocompromised people in my family, I do appreciate the thankless work you guys are doing, because those are no fun. And I had to be on the COVID committee for my kids' school, and you get a lot of ire for some of the choices you make. But I think you definitely seem to be doing, for the greater good of as many people as you can. So I appreciate that. I know it sucks and nobody enjoys any of this stuff. So.
all right. Should we move on then?
Yes.
Do we have any public input for session number 2?
No further public input.
All right. Well, we have need of an executive session, and I see.
Can I very quickly I guess I have one more thing, just very quick on new business or just a topic. I just wanted, this is very quick. I wanted to, first, I just wanted to repeat the congratulations to Alicia on the election, but I wanted to, we have 3 other new board members that are going to be joining us soon. I believe last year when I joined the board, we were given access to the meetings for the June meeting, even though we hadn't joined yet until July, and we're kind of given the opportunity to sit in and kind of get used to the meetings and everything. So I wondered if that's going to happen, or if has anyone reached out to those the write-in candidates that were voted in. Is anything happening with that?
Well, they were voted in yesterday, so no, I haven't gotten contact information for them yet, but I'm hoping to soon, and I hope they will be able to tour the library and become a part of the be able to sit in and see how the board works and get up to speed. That would be great.
I don't know if you're a Facebook user. I do have links to their Facebooks if that helps. I don't know.
I'm
Maybe,
not. I'm
maybe
not.
we can,
I'm probably like one of the only people that's not on Facebook, but
I'm not either, but maybe we can specifically ask them to attend as members of the public for the next board meeting, so they have a sense as to how the board functions.
Yeah, I just think as a matter of a smooth transition.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
I just want to say, Kathy and I had this conversation before this meeting, and we planned on doing just that, to reach out to the people and bring them to the June meeting if they're able to do it.
Yeah. Well,
I can reach out to them for their emails if that helps, so I can get you their emails.
Well, we all agree on this, yes? So,
Okay. That sounds great. All right. So if there's no further business, we have need of an executive session.
I move to go into executive session.
Okay.
just a question, we have to go into a new number and meeting.
Right. And the
Okay.
executive session, just for clarification, is for potential negotiations regarding the director's contract. So, okay, so I have a motion to go into executive sessions. Do I have a second? Marsh.
Okay.
Okay, so we will log in to the new we will end this meeting and log into the executive session.